Clara Whitmore's knees hit the dirt outside Thompson's general store. Blood dripped from her split lip, the third town this month, to throw her out like garbage. 6 years of running. 6 years of being called thief for a crime she never committed. She pressed her forehead to the hot Montana dust and waited to die. Then small fingers touched her face. A barefoot girl with tangled curls knelt beside her, pressing a grimy handkerchief to her bleeding mouth. "Mr. Thompson's real mean," the child whispered. "But my daddy ain't. You want to come meet him? We got 5 kids and not enough hands." If you're watching from anywhere in the world, drop your city in the comments below. I want to see how far Clara's story travels. Subscribe and stay until the very end, because some stories don't just entertain. They remind us that broken hearts can still find home. Montana Territory. Summer 1878. Clara Whitmore had learned to fall without crying out. She hit the wooden boardwalk hard, her shoulder taking the worst of it. Her worn carpetbag flew from her grip, spilling its meager contents across the dusty planks, a spare dress, a cracked hand mirror, a Bible with her mother's name inscribed inside. "I said, get out!" Horace Thompson stood in his store doorway, his face red with righteous fury. "We don't serve your kind here, thief." Clara pushed herself up slowly. Her palms burned where splinters had embedded themselves. "I only asked for water. I can pay." "Your money's dirty as your soul." Thompson spat near her feet. "Word came through on yesterday's stage. Clara Whitmore, convicted thief. Served 4 years in the Ohio Women's Penitentiary. You think we don't talk to each other out here? You think we don't know what you are?" A woman on the boardwalk yanked her daughter behind her skirts. 2 men outside the saloon stopped their conversation to watch. Clara gathered her scattered belongings with shaking hands. The Bible, the mirror now cracked worse than before, the dress that had once been blue. "I served my time," she said quietly. "I paid for what they said I did." "What they said?" Thompson laughed ugly and sharp. "Caught with the jewelry in your own room, convicted by a jury of honest men, and now you wander into my town expecting Christian charity." Clara's fingers closed around the Bible. Her mother's name written in faded ink, Margaret Whitmore, 1842. Mama had believed in her. Mama had died believing. "I'll go." Clara stood clutching her bag against her chest like armor. "I want nothing from you or anyone in this town." "See that you do." Thompson turned to the gathered crowd. "Anyone gives this woman food, water, or shelter, they answer to me. We keep our town clean of vermin." Clara walked. That's what she did now. 6 years of walking. Town to town, rejection to rejection, her past following her like a faithful hound that wouldn't stop biting. The Montana sun hammered down without mercy. Her head pounded. When had she eaten last? 2 days ago. 3. A half-rotten apple stolen from behind a saloon in Bozeman. Her boots held together with hope and fraying thread, scuffed against the hard-packed road leading out of Stillwater. Behind her, the town's judgment pressed like a physical weight. Ahead, nothing but empty prairie and the distant promise of mountains that didn't care whether she lived or died. "Keep walking," she told herself. "Stop, and you're finished." But her legs had other ideas. The ground rose up to meet her. Clara's knees hit first, then her palms, then her cheek against the sun-baked dirt. She tasted dust and blood. Her lip had split open again. "Get up." She couldn't. "Get up, Clara. You survived prison. You survived the trial. You survived Mama dying while you were locked away. You can survive this." But surviving took strength she no longer had. She lay there, cheek pressed to the earth, watching an ant carry a crumb 3 times its size across the road. That ant had more purpose than she did. More reason to keep going. Maybe she thought, maybe if I just close my eyes for a minute. "You're bleeding real bad, ma'am." The voice was small, curious, completely unafraid. Clara blinked. A face swam into view, a little girl maybe 6 years old, with wild brown curls escaping a crooked braid. freckles scattered across her nose, bare feet coated in dust, eyes the color of summer sky looking at Clara like she was something interesting rather than something to fear. "I'm fine," Clara mumbled. "No, ma'am, you ain't." The girl crouched down, studying Clara with the intensity of a doctor examining a patient. "You got blood on your mouth and dirt on your face and you fell down in the road. That ain't fine. That's the opposite of fine. I just need to rest a minute." "You're resting in the dirt." It seemed like a good idea at the time. The girl considered this, head tilted. Then she pulled something from her pocket, a handkerchief grimy and clearly well-loved, embroidered with uneven yellow flowers. "My mama made this," she said, pressing it gently to Clara's split lip. "Before she went to heaven. It's got magic in it," she said. "Makes hurts feel better." Clara's throat closed. She couldn't speak, couldn't move, could only lie there while a barefoot stranger child tended her wounds with a dead woman's handkerchief. "What's your name?" the girl asked. "Clara." "That's real pretty. Like a bell ringing." The girl sat back on her heels and grinned. "I'm Hannah, but everybody calls me Hattie on account of I love hats. I got 7 hats at home. Daddy says that's too many hats for one little girl, but I say there ain't no such thing as too many hats." Despite everything, the pain, the hunger, the crushing weight of 6 years' worth of despair, Clara felt her lips twitch. 7 hats is a lot. "It ain't enough, though. I want a red one next, red with a feather." Hattie's eyes sparkled. "You want to come meet my daddy? He's real nice, big and strong, and he can carry 2 of my brothers at once, one under each arm. And we got 5 kids in our family, so there's always something happening. Eli's the oldest. He's 12 and thinks he's grown. Then Samuel, he's 10 and real serious. Then the twins James and Joseph, they're 8 and always causing trouble. Then me, and then baby Rosie. But she's 4 now, so she ain't really a baby, but Daddy still calls her that." Clara closed her eyes. "I can't come with you, sweetheart." "Why not?" "Because your daddy will take one look at me and see what everyone sees. Because the word thief is branded on my forehead. Because I'll contaminate your family just by existing near them. I'm not the kind of person nice families take in." "What kind of person are you?" Clara opened her eyes and looked at this child, this strange, fearless, impossible child who'd stumbled upon a broken woman in the dirt and decided to help. "The wrong kind," she whispered. Hattie's brow furrowed. "Mama used to say, there ain't no wrong kind of person. Just hurt people who need healing and mean people who need Jesus." "Which one am I? Hurt?" Hattie said it with absolute certainty. "I can tell. I got Mama's intuition, that's what Martha says. It means I know things about people just by looking at them." "What do you know about me?" Hattie studied her for a long moment, those sky-blue eyes, seeing straight through to Clara's battered soul. "I know you've been alone a long time. I know somebody hurt you real bad. I know you're scared." She reached out and took Clara's hand, her small fingers warm and firm. "And I know you need a family. You need us." Clara's vision blurred. She blinked hard, refusing to cry. She hadn't cried since the day they locked the cell door behind her. She wouldn't start now. "Sweetheart, Hattie?" The voice cut through the summer air like a whip crack, deep, commanding, furious. Clara's blood went cold. A man strode toward them from the direction of town, his boots eating up the distance with long, angry strides. Tall, well over 6 feet. Shoulders broad enough to fill a doorway. Dark hair, dark eyes, and a face carved from granite. He moved like a man who expected the world to get out of his way. "Hannah Rose Brennan." His voice dropped to something worse than shouting, quiet, controlled, dangerous. "What did I tell you about wandering off?" Hattie scrambled to her feet, positioning herself between her father and Clara. "Daddy, I found—" "What did I tell you?" "But she's hurt. She's bleeding and hungry. And what did I tell you?" Hattie's chin dropped to her chest. "Not to go past the edge of town alone." "And where are we right now?" past the edge of town, where Eli and Samuel and the twins have been searching for the past 30 minutes while I was about to lose my mind thinking something happened to you. Hattie's lower lip trembled. I'm sorry, Daddy, but I couldn't just leave her there. She fell down and nobody was helping, and the blood and... We will discuss this at home. He finally looked at Clara, really looked, and she watched his expression shift from fury to cold assessment. She knew what he saw: the ragged dress, the split lip, the hollow cheeks and desperate eyes, the carpet bag clutched against her chest like a shield. Who are you? Clara made herself stand. Her legs shook, but she stood. Clara Whitmore. I was passing through. I fell. Your daughter found me. Passing through from where? From prison. From 6 years of running. From the ruins of everything I used to be. East. Clara kept her voice steady. I'm looking for work. Your daughter was kind enough to help me up. I'm sorry she wandered past your boundaries. That's not her fault. No. His eyes narrowed. It's not. They stood there measuring each other. Clara waited for the dismissal, the order to leave, the cold certainty that she wasn't wanted. You're Clara Whitmore. Her stomach dropped. Yes. The one Thompson just ran out of his store. Word travels fast. It does in small towns. He looked her over again, and Clara saw the calculation happening behind those dark eyes. What were you convicted of? The question hit her like a fist. How? Thompson was loud. Half the town heard him. His voice held no judgment, not yet. Just flat, waiting assessment. What were you convicted of? Clara's hands tightened on her carpet bag. She could lie. Had gotten good at lying over the years. But something about this man, his directness, his daughter's impossible kindness, the exhaustion dragging at her bones, made the truth slip out. Theft. They said I stole jewelry from the family I worked for. I served 4 years in Ohio. Did you do it? No. Then why were you convicted? Clara laughed, bitter and broken. Because the family's son wanted me in his bed and I refused. Because they found the jewelry in my room, jewelry I'd never seen before. Because no one believes a servant over a wealthy family. Because the world isn't fair, Mr. Brennan, and justice is a word that doesn't mean anything to people like me. Silence stretched between them. Hattie stood frozen, her eyes darting between Clara and her father. Finally, Tom Brennan spoke. My wife died 3 years ago. Clara blinked at the sudden shift. I'm sorry. She was sick. The doctor said consumption. But before she died... He stopped, jaw working like he was chewing on words too sharp to swallow. Before she died, she made me promise something. What? That when an angel came to our door broken, hurt, running from something terrible, I'd let her in. His voice was rough as gravel. Ruth said God would send someone to us. Someone who needed us as much as we needed them. She said I'd know her when I saw her. Clara's heart hammered against her ribs. I'm not an angel, Mr. Brennan. No. His dark eyes held hers. You're not. You're a woman with a prison record, no money and nowhere to go. You're exactly the kind of person I should send away. Then send me away. I'm considering it. Daddy. Hattie grabbed her father's hand with both of hers. Daddy, please. She needs us. I know she does. Mama said... I know what Mama said. Then let her stay. Please, just for a little while. Martha needs help with the cooking and the cleaning, and there's so much work, and she's tired, Daddy. I can see it, even if she don't say nothing, and Clara can help. I know she can. I feel it in my bones, just like Mama used to feel things. Tom looked down at his daughter, this fierce, fearless little girl who'd inherited her mother's heart and her mother's faith, and something cracked in his granite expression. 1 week. Clara's breath caught. You stay 1 week. Work for your room and board. Martha will tell you what needs doing. You pull your weight 'cause no trouble. And at the end of the week... He paused. We'll see. Mr. Brennan, don't thank me yet. His voice hardened. "I've got 5 children in that house. Whatever you're running from, whatever trouble follows you, it stays away from them. You bring danger to my door, you disappear. No discussion. No second chances. Clear. Clear." "Good." He turned and started walking. "Wagons up the road. Eli's watching the others. We're already late getting home." Hattie grabbed Clara's hand again, her small face radiant with triumph. "I knew it," she whispered. "I knew Daddy would say yes. He always does what Mama would have wanted, even when he don't want to." Clara let herself be pulled forward, her legs somehow still working, her heart doing something strange and painful in her chest. 1 week, she told herself, don't hope for more, don't get attached, don't forget what happens to people who trust you. But Hattie's hand was warm in hers, and somewhere up the road, 4 more children waited at a wagon, and a ranch needed work that Clara could do. For the first time in 6 years, she wasn't running from something. She was walking toward it. The wagon sat in a clearing off the main road, a sturdy farm vehicle with a patient team of horses. 4 children clustered around it. A tall boy, who had to be Eli, keeping watch with serious eyes. A younger boy with arms crossed and suspicion written across his face. Twin boys shoving each other, and a tiny girl with copper curls clutching a rag doll. "You found her," one of the twins shouted. "Hattie Pa's gonna tan your hide." "No, he ain't," Hattie shot back. "Because I found an angel, and she's coming home with us." 5 sets of eyes turned to Clara. 5 pairs ranging from curious to suspicious to openly hostile. "She don't look like an angel," the suspicious boy Samuel, Clara guessed, said flatly. "She looks like a vagrant." "Samuel!" Tom's voice carried warning. "I'm just saying what I see." "What you see isn't always the truth." Tom lifted Hattie into the wagon bed, then turned to Clara. "You can sit up front. Eli, help your sister." The oldest boy moved to assist the copper-haired little one, his eyes never leaving Clara, sizing her up, deciding whether she was a threat. Smart boy, Clara thought. You should be suspicious. Your instincts are good. She climbed onto the wagon seat, gripping the rough wood to steady herself. Her head swam. When had she last eaten? She couldn't remember anymore. Tom took his place beside her and flicked the reins. The horses moved forward. From the wagon bed, a stream of voices erupted. Is she really staying with us? Where'd she come from? Why's her dress all torn? She's bleeding. Can she do tricks? Joseph, she ain't a circus performer. How do you know maybe she is? Children. Tom didn't raise his voice, but the single word cut through the chatter like a blade through butter. Silence fell. Miss Whitmore is tired. Let her be. Clara stared straight ahead, watching the road unfold before them. Prairie grass stretched toward distant mountains. Cattle grazed in far-off pastures. The air smelled like sage and dust, and something she'd almost forgotten existed possibility. Miss Whitmore. The voice was small, hesitant. Clara turned to see the little one, Rosie, peering at her over the wagon seat, her rag doll pressed against her chest. Yes. Are you sad? The question, so simple and direct, punched through Clara's careful armor. Sometimes, she admitted. Daddy gets sad too, Rosie said solemnly. Especially at night. He walks around and thinks we're sleeping, but we ain't. He looks at Mama's picture and cries. Rosie. Tom's voice was strained. That's not... It's okay, Clara said softly. Sadness isn't something to hide from. It's just something to carry until it gets lighter. Rosie considered this, her brow furrowed in concentration. Like carrying a bucket of water that sloshes out as you walk. Exactly like that. Mama said the same thing. Rosie's face brightened. She said crying is just the water sloshing out so the bucket gets less heavy. Clara's throat tightened. What kind of woman had Ruth Brennan been to leave behind children who spoke of grief with such gentle wisdom? The ranch appeared as they crested a hill, A white farmhouse, a red barn, corrals and outbuildings, all of it worn but well maintained. And standing on the porch, hands on her hips, was a gray-haired woman with a face that had clearly seen everything and had strong opinions about all of it. "Lord have mercy," the woman called as the wagon pulled up. "Thomas Brennan, you were supposed to be back 2 hours ago. I've got supper burning and children to feed and—" She stopped, her sharp eyes landing on Clara. "And who's this?" "Martha, this is Clara Whitmore. She'll be helping around the ranch for a while." Tom jumped down and began helping children from the wagon. "Clara, this is Martha Hensley. She runs this household." Martha's gaze swept over Clara, the torn dress, the split lip, the hollow desperation in her eyes, and something flickered across her weathered face. Not pity. Something harder and warmer at once. "Well," Martha said finally, "you look like death warmed over and left to cool. Come inside. Whatever you've been through, you'll face it better with food in your belly." Clara's eyes burned. "Thank you, ma'am." "Don't ma'am me. Martha'll do." She turned and marched into the house. "Children, wash up suppers in 10 minutes, and I don't want to see a single dirty hand at my table." The children scattered like startled chickens, racing toward the water pump, pushing and shoving with the easy violence of siblings. Clara stood frozen in the yard, her carpetbag clutched against her chest. The farmhouse loomed before her, warm light spilling from the windows, the smell of food drifting from inside, the sounds of a family that worked like a family should. "Miss Whitmore." She turned. Tom stood beside the wagon, unhitching the horses, his back half turned to her. "Yes. What happened to you in Ohio?" He paused, choosing his words carefully. "I don't need to know the details. Not yet. But whatever you're carrying, whatever made you end up bleeding in the dirt on the road to nowhere, you don't have to carry it alone anymore." Clara's grip tightened on her bag. "You don't know what I'm carrying." "No. But I know what it looks like." He finally turned to face her, and in his dark eyes, she saw something unexpected recognition. "I know what it looks like when someone's been hollowed out by the world, when they've given up on finding anything worth stopping for." "And what does that look like?" "Like looking in a mirror." The words hung between them, heavy and honest. "1 week," Clara said. "That's what you offered." "That's what I offered." "And if I cause trouble? If my past catches up with me? If Thompson or someone like him comes looking?" Tom's jaw hardened. "Then we deal with it. Together." "Why?" Clara stepped forward, searching his face. "Why would you risk your family for a stranger?" "Because my wife asked me to." His voice cracked just barely, just enough to show the fracture lines beneath the granite. "Because she believed people deserved second chances, even when I couldn't see why. Because she made me promise, and I've broken too many promises already." He turned away, leading the horses toward the barn. "1 week, Miss Whitmore. Make it count." Clara watched him go, her heart doing that strange, painful thing again. Then she walked toward the farmhouse, toward the noise and light and chaos of 5 children and 1 formidable housekeeper, toward something that felt terrifyingly like hope. The kitchen was warm and crowded, children jostling for position at a long wooden table, while Martha orchestrated the chaos with military precision. "Eli, help your brother. Samuel, stop scowling. Twins, if you don't quit poking each other, you'll eat in the barn. Rosie, fingers out of the butter. Hattie, sit down this instant." Clara hovered in the doorway, uncertain where she fit in this well-worn machine. Martha spotted her and pointed to an empty chair. "Sit. Eat. Don't argue." Clara sat. A plate appeared before her: roast chicken, potatoes, greens, fresh bread. More food than she'd seen in months. "Thank you," she whispered. "Don't thank me yet." Martha settled into her own chair. "Wait till you've seen the pile of mending waiting upstairs. Enough torn breeches to clothe an army." Hattie scrambled into the seat beside Clara, her face glowing with triumph. "I told you Martha's cooking was the best. Didn't I tell you?" "You told me. And I told you Daddy would say yes." "You did. And I told you we needed you." Hattie grabbed Clara's hand under the table and squeezed. "And we do. I know we do. You're gonna stay forever. I just know it." Clara's throat closed. Don't, she warned herself. Don't let yourself want this. Don't forget what happens when you trust. But Hattie's hand was warm, and the food was good, and somewhere outside, Tom Brennan was tending horses with the same careful attention he clearly gave to everything in his life. 1 week. She had 1 week to prove she was worth keeping. 1 week to decide if she even wanted to be kept. 1 week before everything she was running from caught up with her the way it always did. But for now, for this single impossible moment, Clara Whitmore sat at a table, surrounded by chaos and warmth, and the fierce love of a family that had lost its heart and was still learning to beat again. And she ate, and she let herself breathe, and she wondered just for a moment if maybe her running days were finally done. 3 days into her week, Clara learned the rhythm of the Brennan Ranch. Dawn came with roosters and hungry children. Martha commanded the kitchen like a general commanding troops. Tom disappeared into the fields before sunrise and returned after dark, speaking little, eating quickly, watching Clara with those assessing eyes that never seemed to rest. The children tested her constantly. Eli watched from doorways, arms crossed, waiting for her to fail. Samuel openly questioned everything she did. The twins played tricks, hiding her shoes, putting frogs in her wash basin, accidentally spilling milk across fresh scrubbed floors. Only Hattie and Rosie treated her like she belonged. On the 4th morning, Clara woke to screaming. She bolted upright in her narrow cot, heart hammering. The sound came from down the hall. High terrified, the kind of scream that meant blood or fire or death. Clara threw off her blanket and ran. She found Rosie in the hallway, face white, pointing at the children's bedroom door. "James fell. He fell out the window, and he ain't moving." Clara didn't think. She pushed past the girl through the bedroom to the window where the curtains blew in the morning breeze. Below in the dirt, James lay crumpled and still. Clara was down the stairs and out the door before she remembered she'd forgotten to breathe. She dropped to her knees beside the boy, her hands shaking as she checked for blood, for broken bones, for the terrible stillness of death. "James, James, can you hear me?" The boy's eyes fluttered. "Hurts." "What hurts? Where?" "My arm and my head." His face screwed up. "I was trying to catch a crow. Joseph dared me." "You climbed out a 2nd-story window to catch a crow." It was sitting right there on the ledge. Clara's relief came out as something between a laugh and a sob. "You're an idiot. That ain't nice. You'll live." She ran her hands carefully along his arm, feeling for breaks. He yelped when she touched his wrist. "This is broken. Don't move it." "What's going on?" Tom's voice cut through the chaos. He was running from the barn, his face pale beneath the tan. "James fell from the window," Clara said, keeping her voice calm. "I think his wrist is broken, but he's conscious and talking." "That's good." Tom dropped beside her, his hands joining hers in examining his son. "James Thomas Brennan, what in God's name?" "There was a crow, Daddy." "A crow. Joseph said I couldn't catch it." Tom's jaw tightened. He shot a look at Joseph, who was hanging out the window above them, face stricken with guilt. "We'll discuss this later." Tom scooped James into his arms, careful of the injured wrist. "I need to get him to Doc Morrison in town." "I'll come with you," Clara said automatically. "No." Tom's voice was sharp. "You stay here. Watch the others. Martha can't handle them all alone." He was gone before Clara could argue, carrying his injured son toward the wagon, shouting for Eli to help hitch the horses. Clara stood in the yard, dust settling around her, and realized she'd just done something she hadn't done in 6 years. She'd acted without thinking about herself. She'd rushed to help without calculating the cost. She'd cared. The realization terrified her. Martha appeared on the porch, her face grim. "That boy's going to be the death of his father. Get inside. There's breakfast to finish and children to manage, and I'm too old for this much excitement before coffee." The morning passed in controlled chaos. Clara cooked while Martha tended to the other children. Joseph wouldn't stop crying, convinced he'd killed his brother. Rosie clung to Clara's skirt like a barnacle. Samuel retreated into hostile silence. Hattie tried to cheer everyone up with stories that nobody wanted to hear. Only Eli stayed calm, stepping into his father's role with the ease of a boy who'd done it too many times before. Joseph, stop sniveling. James is tough. He's broken bones before. But it's my fault. Yeah, it is. And you'll feel bad about it for a while. That's how consequences work. Eli's voice was matter-of-fact. Now eat your breakfast before it gets cold. Clara watched him, this 12-year-old man-child who'd had to grow up too fast. She recognized the set of his shoulders, the careful control in his voice. She'd worn that same armor once before prison stripped it away. You're good with them, she said quietly. Eli shrugged. Somebody has to be. Daddy can't do everything. No, he can't. Clara hesitated. Your mother, was she good with them too? Something flickered across Eli's face. Pain quickly buried. The best. She knew how to make everyone feel like they mattered, like they were seen. He paused. She would have liked you. The words hit Clara like a punch. You don't know me. I know you ran into a burning building to save my brother. It wasn't burning, he fell. You didn't know that when you ran. He held her gaze, and Clara saw something shift in those young old eyes. Not trust, not yet, but the beginning of respect. Mama said an angel would come to us someday, Eli said quietly. Someone broken who'd help us heal. I didn't believe her. I thought she was just saying things because she was dying and wanted us to have hope. Eli. But maybe she was right. He turned away before she could respond. I'm going to check on the horses. Holler if you need me. He was gone, leaving Clara standing in the kitchen with 5 words echoing in her head. She would have liked you. She had no idea why those words made her want to cry. Tom returned late afternoon, James's arm in a proper splint, the boy grinning despite the pain. Doc Morrison says I'm the bravest patient he's ever had, James announced to his assembled siblings. He said I didn't even cry when he set the bone. That ain't what Daddy's face says, Samuel muttered. Samuel. Tom's voice was exhausted. Not now. Clara hung back as the children swarmed their brother, asking questions, examining the splint, demanding details. Tom stood apart watching, and when his eyes found Clara's, she saw something new there. Gratitude, maybe. Or surprise. Martha told me what you did, he said, walking toward her. That you got to him first. That you kept him calm. Anyone would have done the same. No. He stopped in front of her, close enough that she could see the lines of fatigue around his eyes. They wouldn't. Most people would have panicked, would have made it worse. You knew exactly what to do. I've seen broken bones before. In prison. The question was direct, but not cruel. Just curious. Before that, Clara said, I grew up on a farm. Things break. You learn to fix them. Tom nodded slowly. Thank you. For being there. For keeping your head. It's what you're paying me for. No. His voice softened. It's not. He walked away before she could ask what he meant. That night, Clara couldn't sleep. She lay in her narrow cot, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of the ranch settling around her. Crickets chirping. Horses shifting in the barn. The occasional creak of old wood. And footsteps. Quiet footsteps moving through the house. Clara held her breath, listening. The footsteps went down the stairs toward the back of the house, toward the kitchen. She should stay in bed, should mind her own business, should remember that she was a guest here, a temporary presence, someone who didn't belong. Instead, she got up and followed. She found Tom in the kitchen, sitting at the table with a single candle burning and a wooden box open before him. His shoulders were hunched, his head bowed, and he was holding something small in his hands. A photograph. Clara's foot hit a creaky board. Tom's head snapped up, his expression shifting from grief to defense in an instant. "I'm sorry," Clara said quickly. "I heard footsteps. I thought, it's fine." He set the photograph face down on the table. "I couldn't sleep." Neither could I. Silence stretched between them, awkward and charged. "Do you want me to go?" Clara asked. "No." The word came out too fast. Tom cleared his throat. "Stay. If you want. I'm just remembering." Clara moved closer, pulling out the chair across from him. She sat down slowly, giving him time to change his mind. "Your wife." He nodded, his fingers tracing the edge of the photograph. "Ruth. It's been 3 years, but sometimes it feels like yesterday. Other times it feels like a lifetime ago. The children talk about her." "They do." His voice cracked just barely. "Hattie remembers her the most. She was old enough when Ruth got sick, old enough to understand." He paused. "Rosie barely remembers her at all. Just impressions. The smell of lavender. A song Ruth used to sing. Sometimes that feels like the cruelest part. That my youngest daughter is losing her mother all over again, one memory at a time." Clara's chest ached. How did she die? Consumption. That's what the doctor said. Tom's jaw tightened. But it was more than that. She was scared, Clara. In those last months she was terrified of something. Wouldn't tell me what. Wouldn't let me help her carry it. She just faded, day by day, until there was nothing left. Do you know what she was scared of? No. The word was bitter. She tried to tell me once, the night before she died. She grabbed my hand and said there were things I needed to know. Said she'd hidden something important, proof she called it, and I needed to find it. But she was so weak, so delirious from fever, I thought it was just the sickness talking. What kind of proof? Tom shook his head. I never found out. She died that night, and whatever she was trying to tell me died with her. Clara leaned forward, something prickling at the back of her mind. You never found what she hid. I looked, searched the whole house, the barn, every place I could think of. Found nothing. His hands clenched on the table. Sometimes I wonder if I imagined the whole thing, if the grief made me remember things that never happened. But you don't think you imagined it? No. His eyes met hers, dark and haunted. Ruth wasn't the type to see things that weren't there. If she said she hid something, she hid it. If she said it was important, it was important. He exhaled roughly. I failed her. She asked me to find the truth, and I couldn't. Clara thought about Ruth Brennan dying in this house, terrified of something she couldn't name, hiding proof, trying to protect her family from a threat her husband never understood. It felt familiar, too familiar. What if someone didn't want you to find it? Clara asked slowly. Tom's head came up. What do you mean? You said she was scared. Scared enough to hide something important instead of just telling you. What if she knew someone was watching? Someone who wanted to keep her quiet? That's... Tom stopped. His face went pale. No, that's crazy. Ruth was sick. She died of consumption. The doctor confirmed it. The same doctor who treats everyone in town, who answers to the same people who run everything. Clara didn't know where the words were coming from. Didn't know why she was pushing. But something about this story, Ruth's fear, the hidden proof, the questions that never got answered, it nagged at her like a splinter under her skin. Why are you asking these questions? Tom's voice had gone sharp. What do you know? Nothing. I know nothing. Clara held up her hands. I've seen things, Tom. I know what it looks like when powerful people want to keep secrets buried. I know what it feels like to have the truth right in front of you, and no one willing to listen. She'd gone too far. She could see it in his face, the walls going up, the suspicion returning. This has nothing to do with you, Tom said coldly. Ruth's death has nothing to do with whatever happened to you in Ohio. I know. Then why? Because I've been where she was. Clara's voice broke. Scared. Alone. Knowing something terrible was happening and having no one to tell. I know that feeling, Tom. I lived it. And if Ruth felt that way, if she died carrying a burden that heavy, then she deserved better. She deserved someone who would keep looking. Silence. Tom stared at her across the table, his expression unreadable. The candle flickered between them, casting dancing shadows on the walls. You really believe that? He finally asked. That someone might have done something to her? I believe that fear like that doesn't come from nowhere. I believe that proof, important enough to hide, is proof someone wanted destroyed. And I believe that 3 years is a long time to stop looking, but it's not too long to start again. Tom's hands were shaking. Clara could see them trembling against the tabletop, this strong, controlled man, suddenly undone by the possibility that his wife's death was something more than tragedy. What would you have me do? His voice was barely a whisper. Where would I even start? I don't know. Clara reached across the table and covered his hands with hers. But maybe you don't have to figure it out alone. The touch was electric. Clara felt it spark between them, something raw and dangerous, and entirely inappropriate. She started to pull away. Tom's fingers closed around hers. Why do you care? He looked at her with those haunted eyes. You've known us 4 days. Why does this matter to you? Because your daughter found me bleeding in the dirt and thought I was an angel. Clara's voice cracked. Because your family took me in when no one else would. Because for the first time in 6 years I've found people worth fighting for. The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Neither of them was ready to examine. Tom released her hands slowly. You should get some sleep. So should you. I'll try. He stood picking up the photograph, holding it carefully. Clara. Yes. Thank you. For listening. For pushing. You're welcome. He walked past her toward the stairs, and Clara sat alone in the kitchen with the dying candle and the echo of everything he'd told her. Ruth Brennan had died afraid. Ruth Brennan had hidden proof of something. Ruth Brennan had tried to tell her husband the truth, and someone or something had silenced her before she could. Clara didn't know what any of it meant. Didn't know if she was being paranoid, projecting her own experience onto a dead woman's story. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She was going to find out. Whatever Ruth Brennan had hidden, Clara would find it. She owed it to Tom, to the children, to the ghost of a woman who'd believed an angel would come to her door someday. I'm not an angel, Clara thought, climbing the stairs to her narrow cot. But maybe I can be something better. Maybe I can be the one who finally tells the truth. The next morning, Clara started looking. She moved through her chores with new purpose, sweeping floors, scrubbing dishes, hanging laundry, while her eyes searched every corner, every crevice, every possible hiding spot. Martha noticed. You're cleaning places that don't need cleaning, the older woman observed, watching Clara examine the back of the pantry for the 3rd time. Something on your mind. Clara hesitated. She didn't know Martha well enough to trust her. Didn't know if the woman was friend or foe or something in between. But Martha had been here when Ruth died. Martha had seen everything. Can I ask you something? Clara kept her voice casual. About Mrs. Brennan. Martha's expression flickered. What about her? Tom said she was scared before she died, that she was hiding something. Clara turned to face the older woman. Did you notice anything? Anything unusual? Martha was quiet for a long moment. Her weathered hands stilled on the dough she'd been kneading. Ruth was a good woman, she said finally. Kind, loving, devoted to her family. Her voice dropped. But in those last months something changed. She got secretive, started having whispered conversations with people in town, received letters she wouldn't let anyone read. Once I found her in the barn at midnight, digging in the hayloft, like she was looking for something. Clara's pulse quickened. Did you ask her about it? I tried. She said it was nothing. Said she was just tired from the sickness. Martha shook her head. But Ruth was a terrible liar. I knew something was wrong, I just didn't push. I thought she'd tell me when she was ready. But she never did. She died before she could. Martha's voice was heavy with regret, and I've wondered every day since if I should have pushed harder, should have made her tell me what was frightening her so badly. You couldn't have known. No. Martha looked at Clara with sharp, knowing eyes. But you're looking now, aren't you? That's why you're searching the pantry like you lost something valuable. Clara couldn't deny it. Tom told me about the hidden proof. I want to find it. Why? It's not your burden to carry. Because... Clara stopped searching for words. Because I know what it feels like to carry something alone. To have no one believe you. To watch the truth get buried because it's easier than fighting. Martha studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. The barn, she said quietly. Ruth spent a lot of time in the barn those last weeks. Said she was checking on the horses, but she'd stay out there for hours. Sometimes I'd find her crying when she came back in. Did you ever look after she died? Tom did. Tore the place apart. Found nothing. Martha hesitated. But there's one spot he might have missed. The old tack room. It's got a false floor. Ruth's father built it years ago for hiding valuables during Indian raids. I'd forgotten about it until just now. Clara's heart hammered. Does Tom know about it? I don't think so. It was Ruth's secret from her own father. She showed me once years ago, made me promise not to tell anyone. But you're telling me. Martha's jaw set. Because Ruth deserved better than dying scared and alone. And because if there's even a chance that finding the truth might give her family peace. She trailed off. Just be careful. Whatever Ruth was hiding, it scared her enough to take it to her grave. That kind of secret doesn't stay buried without a fight. Clara didn't waste time. She waited until Tom took the children into town for supplies. James needed his splint checked, and the others needed distraction from the morning's tedium, then slipped out to the barn with her heart in her throat, and Martha's warning echoing in her ears. The tack room was dim and dusty, smelling of leather and old hay. Clara closed the door behind her, letting her eyes adjust to the darkness. The floor was wooden planks, worn smooth by years of use. She moved slowly around the perimeter, testing each board with her foot, searching for the hollow sound that would betray a hidden space. Nothing. 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 Then, in the far corner beneath a pile of moth-eaten horse blankets, a faint give. A subtle shift. Clara's hands shook as she cleared away the blankets. The floorboard beneath was slightly newer than the others, the nails fresher. She found a loose edge and pulled. The board came up with a groan of protest. Beneath it, in a hollow space just large enough to hold a strongbox, lay a leather satchel covered in 3 years of dust. Clara pulled it out with trembling hands. The leather was cracked, the buckles rusted. Whatever was inside had been there a long time. She opened it. Papers. Dozens of papers covered in small, neat handwriting. And beneath them, a bundle of official-looking documents with territorial seals and legal stamps. Clara pulled out the first paper and began to read. Her blood went cold. It was a deed. A land deed for the Brennan Ranch. But the name on it wasn't Thomas Brennan. It was Silas Crow. Judge Silas Crow. Dated 6 months before Ruth Brennan died. Clara rifled through more papers. Her hands shaking so badly she could barely hold them. Letters between Crow and someone named Edmund Shaw discussing the Brennan situation. References to forged documents. Instructions for acquiring the water rights. Plans to force Tom off his land through any means necessary. And then at the bottom of the pile, Ruth Brennan's journal. Clara opened it to the last entry, dated 2 days before Ruth's death. I know the truth now. Silas Crow and Edmund Shaw have been stealing land from families across the territory. They forge deeds, bribe officials, and anyone who tries to fight back disappears or dies. Sheriff Pike is part of it. He covers their tracks, Makes problems go away. They're coming for our ranch next. Crow approached Tom last month with an offer to buy the water rights. Tom refused. Now they're moving forward with their plan. I found proof of everything. Deeds, letters, records of bribes. Enough to send them all to prison. But I'm scared. So scared. Edmund Shaw came to the house yesterday while Tom was in the fields. He didn't threaten me directly, but I saw it in his eyes. He knows I'm investigating. He knows I'm close. I'm hiding everything here in the place Mama showed me years ago. If something happens to me if I don't survive what's coming. I pray someone finds this. Someone brave enough to finish what I started. Tom, if you're reading this, I'm sorry I didn't tell you. I was trying to protect you. Protect the children. I thought if I could just gather enough proof, I could fix everything without putting you at risk. I was wrong. And now, I'm afraid it's too late. I love you. I love our children. Please forgive me for leaving you with so many questions. Find the truth, my darling. Set us all free. Clara sat in the dusty tack room surrounded by the evidence of a dead woman's courage and let the tears fall. Ruth Brennan hadn't died of consumption. Ruth Brennan had been murdered, and the men who killed her were still out there, still powerful, still stealing and destroying and covering their tracks. Clara didn't know how long she sat there clutching the journal to her chest, crying for a woman she'd never met. But when she finally stood, her legs steady, her mind clear, she knew exactly what she had to do. She was going to finish what Ruth started, no matter what it cost her. Clara waited until nightfall to show Tom. The children were asleep. Martha had retired to her room. The house settled into that deep quiet that only comes after chaos has exhausted itself. She found him on the porch staring at the stars like they held answers he couldn't find anywhere else. Tom. He turned, saw the leather satchel in her hands. His face went still. What's that? I found it. Clara's voice shook despite herself. In the barn. The hidden space Martha told me about. Ruth's hiding place. Tom didn't move, didn't breathe. What did you find? Clara opened the satchel and pulled out the journal. Everything. She found everything, Tom. The land scheme. The forged deeds. The men responsible. She handed him Ruth's journal, open to the final entry. Read it. Tom's hands trembled as he took the leather-bound book. His eyes moved across his dead wife's handwriting, and Clara watched the color drain from his face. Watched his jaw clench. Watched something break and rebuild itself behind those dark eyes. No. His voice was barely a whisper. No, this isn't Ruth would have told me. She was trying to protect you. She says so right there. Clara pointed to the passage. She thought she could handle it alone. She was wrong. Tom read the entry again, and again. His breathing grew ragged. Silas Crow. He spat the name like poison. That snake sat in my parlor 2 weeks before Ruth died. Brought flowers. Said he was sorry she was sick. I thanked him. I shook his hand. He was checking on her, making sure she was dying. And Edmund Shaw drew up our will when Rosie was born. Ruth insisted on updating it. Said she wanted everything in order. Tom's voice cracked. She knew. She already knew they were coming, and she was making sure the children would be protected. Clara gave him time. Let him absorb the magnitude of what his wife had discovered, what she'd carried alone, what had killed her. Finally, Tom looked up. His eyes were red, but his voice was steady. What else is in there? Clara spread the documents across the porch railing. Deeds with forged signatures, letters detailing bribes to territorial officials, records of families who'd lost their land, and 2 who'd disappeared entirely. This is enough to destroy them, Clara said. Crow, Shaw, Pike, all of them. But we have to get it to the right people. Someone beyond their reach. The Territorial Attorney General. Tom's mind was clearly racing. Vincent Morrison. He's in Cheyenne. Ruth mentioned him once, said he was the only honest man left in the territory. Then that's where we take it. Tom looked at her, really looked at her, and Clara saw the question forming before he asked it. Why are you doing this? This isn't your fight. You could take this information, use it to buy your way out of whatever trouble follows you, disappear somewhere new. Why stay? Why risk everything for a dead woman you never met? Clara thought about lying, thought about giving him some noble answer about justice or redemption. Instead, she told the truth. Because Ruth believed someone would come. She wrote it in her journal. She believed an angel would find her proof and finish what she started. And maybe I'm not an angel, Tom. Maybe I'm just a broken woman who's been running so long she forgot how to stand. But when I read her words, when I felt her fear and her courage and her desperate hope that someone would care enough to fight, Clara's voice broke. I wanted to be the person she believed in. I wanted to be worthy of her faith. Tom was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached out and took her hand. You are. 2 words. 2 simple words that cracked Clara's carefully constructed walls wide open. We leave at dawn, Tom said. Martha can watch the children. I'll tell her we're going to Bozeman for supplies. If anyone asks, no one can know, Clara agreed. If Crow finds out we have this evidence, he'll do whatever it takes to stop us. Tom's grip tightened on her hand. Are you ready for that? Clara thought about prison, about the cell that had been her home for 4 years, about the endless nights of wondering if she'd ever feel the sun on her face again. I've been ready my whole life. They left before the sun touched the mountains. Clara had packed light, the satchel strapped beneath her coat, pressed against her ribs like a second heartbeat. Tom rode beside her, his jaw set, his eyes scanning the horizon with the wariness of a man expecting ambush. They made good time through the morning, following back trails Tom knew from years of ranching. The roads were empty, the territory still waking up. How far to Cheyenne? Clara asked. 2 days if we push, 3 if we're careful. We should be careful. We should be fast. Tom's voice was grim. Crow has eyes everywhere. The longer we're on the road, the more chances someone spots us. They stopped at midday to rest the horses. Clara chewed on dried beef while Tom watered the animals at a creek. Tell me about Morrison, she said. The Attorney General. How do we know we can trust him? We don't. Not completely. Tom crouched beside her. But Ruth trusted him. She wrote his name 3 times in her journal. And Morrison's been investigating land fraud in the territory for 2 years. Everyone knows Crow wants him removed from office. The enemy of my enemy. Something like that. Clara finished her meal and stood brushing dust from her dress. We should keep moving. They'd barely mounted their horses when Tom held up a hand. Wait. Clara froze. What is it? Riders, coming from the east. She listened, heard nothing at first. Then hoofbeats, distant but approaching fast. Could be travelers? She said. Could be. Tom's hand moved to the rifle strapped to his saddle. Or could be Crow figured out we're gone and sent Pike to find us. How would he know? Martha, the children. Tom's face went pale. If someone went to the ranch asking questions, Martha wouldn't tell them anything. Martha would do whatever it took to protect those kids. Tom wheeled his horse toward a rocky outcropping. This way. We can hide and see who's following. They scrambled up the rocks, dismounting and crouching behind boulders just as 3 riders came into view on the trail below. Clara's blood went cold. She recognized the lead rider. Sheriff Vernon Pike, his badge glinting in the midday sun, and behind him, 2 deputies she didn't know, hard-faced men who looked like they'd be comfortable with violence. How'd they find us so fast? Clara whispered. Doesn't matter. Tom's jaw was tight. We need to move, now, while they're still following the main trail. They led their horses deeper into the rocks, moving as quietly as possible. Clara's heart hammered so loud she was sure Pike could hear it. Over here. Tom pointed to a narrow gap between two boulders. It'll take us north, away from the main road. But Cheyenne is south. We'll circle around. Take the long way. That could add another day. Better than getting caught. Tom looked at her, his dark eyes fierce. Whatever happens, Clara, if we get separated, if something goes wrong, you take that satchel and you run. Don't wait for me. Don't come back. You get those documents to Morrison, no matter what. Tom, promise me. She wanted to argue, wanted to tell him she wouldn't leave him behind. But she saw the determination in his face, the absolute certainty that Ruth's evidence mattered more than either of their lives. I promise. They rode hard for the rest of the day, pushing through terrain that tore at their clothes and tested their horses. By nightfall, they'd put 20 miles between themselves and Pike's search party. We'll camp here, Tom said, dismounting in a sheltered hollow. No fire, cold food. We move again at first light. Clara nodded, too exhausted to argue. Her legs ached, her back screamed. But the satchel was still strapped to her ribs, Ruth's evidence still safe. They ate in silence, sharing jerky and hardtack, passing a canteen back and forth. The stars emerged overhead, cold and distant. Clara. Tom's voice was quiet in the darkness. I need to tell you something. What? If we make it to Cheyenne, if Morrison takes the case, they're going to investigate everything. That includes you, your past, your conviction. Clara's stomach dropped. I know. They'll use it against you, against us. Shaw's a lawyer. He'll tear you apart on the witness stand. Make you look like a liar, a criminal, someone no jury should believe. I know. Then why are you still here? Tom shifted closer, his voice rough. You could disappear right now. Take the evidence, leave it somewhere, Morrison will find it and vanish before anyone connects you to this. Why put yourself through what's coming? Clara was quiet for a long moment. The stars wheeled overhead. Somewhere in the darkness, an owl called. Because I'm tired, she finally said. Tired of running. Tired of hiding. Tired of being the person everyone expects me to be. She turned to face him in the darkness. For 6 years, I've let my conviction define me. Let other people's lies become my truth. But what Ruth did, standing up to powerful men, fighting for what was right, even when it cost her everything, that's the person I want to be. That's the person I used to be before they took it from me. And if they destroy you, if Shaw and Crow use your past to bury Ruth's evidence and send you back to prison. Clara's voice hardened. Then at least I'll know I fought. At least I'll know I tried to be something more than what they made me. Tom reached out in the darkness. His hand found hers. You already are. They sat like that for a long time. Hands intertwined, two broken people, finding strength in each other's damage. Finally, Clara pulled away. We should sleep. Dawn comes early. Clara. Tom's voice stopped her. When this is over, if we survive, I want you to stay. Not as hired help, not as a guest, as family. Her heart stuttered. Tom, I know it's too soon. I know we barely know each other. But Ruth believed you were coming. She wrote about you before you even existed. And when I look at you, when I see you with my children, when I watch you fight for the truth, I understand why. I'm not the angel she imagined. No. His voice was soft, certain. You're better. You're real. Clara couldn't respond. Couldn't find words for the emotions crashing through her. So she did the only thing that made sense. She leaned across the darkness and kissed him. It was brief, tentative. A question more than an answer. But when she pulled away, she heard his breath catch, felt his hand tighten on hers. Stay, he whispered. Please. Let's survive first. She settled back against her saddle. Then we'll talk about forever. Dawn brought trouble. Clara woke to Tom shaking her shoulder, his face tense. Riders, 1/2 mile out, coming straight for us. She was on her feet in seconds, her hand checking the satchel still strapped beneath her coat. How did they find us? Must have tracked us through the night. Pike's got crow trackers working for him. Tom was already saddling his horse. We split up. No. Clara, I'm not leaving you. You have to. He grabbed her shoulders, his eyes fierce. Listen to me. Pike wants those documents. If we stay together, he gets both of us. If we split up, one of us has a chance to make it through. Then you take the satchel. You know the territory better. You can... No? Tom cut her off. I'll draw them away. Lead them south toward the canyons. You take the northern trail to Cheyenne. It's longer, but they won't expect it. Tom, please. This is what Ruth would have wanted. His voice cracked. She died trying to protect our family. Let me do the same. Clara's eyes burned. She wanted to argue, wanted to fight, wanted to do anything except watch him ride away. But the hoofbeats were getting closer. And the evidence in her satchel was the only thing that could bring justice to Ruth, to Tom, to all the families Crow had destroyed. I'll find you, she said fiercely. When this is over, I'll find you. I'll be waiting. Tom pulled her close, kissed her hard, then released her. Now go. Ride fast. Don't stop for anything. She mounted her horse with shaking hands, looked back one last time at the man who'd given her shelter, given her purpose, given her hope. Tell the children I'm coming home. Tell them yourself. Tom drew his rifle. I'll hold them off as long as I can. Clara kicked her horse into a gallop and didn't look back. The northern trail was rough and winding, barely a path through the rocks and scrub. Clara pushed her horse as hard as she dared, listening for sounds of pursuit. She heard gunfire behind her. Distant. Terrifying. Tom. Her hands tightened on the reins. Every instinct screamed at her to turn back to help him, to fight alongside him. But she'd made a promise, and the satchel pressed against her ribs carried the hopes of a dead woman and the future of 5 children. She rode on. The sun climbed, fell, climbed again. Clara lost track of time, lost track of everything except the burning need to reach Cheyenne. She stopped only when her horse couldn't go any further, collapsing against a boulder, while the animal wheezed beside her. The satchel. She pulled it out, checked the contents. Still there, still safe. Ruth's journal. The forged deeds, the letters, all of it intact. Clara pressed the journal to her chest and let herself cry. For Ruth, who'd died trying to protect her family. For Tom, who might be dead or captured because of her. For the children who might never see their father again. For herself, the woman who'd finally found something worth fighting for and might lose it all. When the tears stopped, she got back on her horse and rode. Cheyenne appeared on the second day. A real city, with buildings and streets, and people who didn't know her name or her past. Clara rode straight to the territorial building, dismounting on legs that barely held her weight. She climbed the steps, pushed through the doors, and found herself face to face with a clerk who looked like he'd never been surprised by anything in his life. I need to see Vincent Morrison, the Attorney General. The clerk raised an eyebrow. Do you have an appointment? No. Then I'm afraid... Tell him Ruth Brennan sent me. The clerk's expression flickered. Just for a moment, but Clara caught it. Wait here. He disappeared through a door. Clara stood in the lobby, her heart pounding, her hands clenched on the satchel. 5 minutes passed. 10. The door opened. A man emerged, lean, gray-haired, with eyes that missed nothing. I'm Vincent Morrison. His voice was quiet, but carried authority. You mentioned Ruth Brennan. I have something for you. Clara pulled the satchel from beneath her coat. Something she died trying to protect. Morrison's eyes widened as he looked at the contents. The journal, the deeds, the letters. Where did you find this? Hidden in her barn. She left it there before she died. She wanted someone to find the truth. Clara's voice shook. Someone already has. Morrison read Ruth's final journal entry. His face went pale, then red, then settled into something cold and furious. Silas Crow, he said softly. I've been trying to catch that bastard for 3 years. Never had enough proof. You have it now. Morrison looked at her, really looked, and Clara saw him taking in the exhaustion, the desperation, the determination. Who are you? Clara Whitmore. I work for Tom Brennan, Ruth's husband. We found the evidence together, but Pike caught up with us. Tom led them away so I could get here. Her voice cracked. I don't know if he's alive or dead. Morrison's expression hardened. Pike works for Crow. If he has Tom, then we need to move fast. Clara stepped closer. Please. Whatever you have to do, whoever you have to call, do it now. Before they realize this, evidence exists. Before they kill everyone who knows the truth. Morrison was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned to his clerk. Send word to the federal marshals. Tell them we're executing warrants tonight. Crow, Shaw, and Pike. He looked back at Clara. You just started a war, Miss Whitmore. Clara thought about Ruth dying alone with her secrets, about Tom riding toward danger to save her, about 5 children waiting at a ranch that might never feel safe again. No, she said. I'm finishing one. Morrison moved fast. Within the hour, 6 federal marshals assembled in his office. Clara watched them study Ruth's evidence, their faces shifting from skepticism to shock to cold fury. This is enough to hang them, the lead marshal said. His name was Webb, no relation to the corrupt judge in Clara's original story. Crow, Shaw, Pike, all of them. We need to move tonight. Morrison spread a map across his desk. Pike knows we're coming. The moment Crow realizes his sheriff failed to recover the evidence, he'll run. Clara stepped forward. What about Tom Brennan? He stayed behind to help me escape. If Pike has him, then he's likely at the Stillwater jail. Webb's voice was grim, or worse. We have to find him. Miss Whitmore. Morrison's tone was gentle but firm. Our priority has to be securing the suspects and protecting the evidence. If Brennan's alive, Clara's voice cracked. He sacrificed himself so I could get here. He trusted me to bring help. I am not leaving him to die. The room fell silent. The marshals exchanged glances. Finally, Webb spoke. We'll split up. Half our men go for Crow and Shaw and Cheyenne. The other half ride for Stillwater, Pike, and the jail. I'm coming with you, Clara said. That's not... I know Stillwater. I know the people. I know which roads Pike uses and where he might be holding Tom. She met Webb's eyes without flinching. You need me. Webb studied her for a long moment. You understand you're riding into a war zone. Pike won't go quietly. Neither will his men. I understand. And your past? The conviction, if this goes to trial, defense attorneys will use it to discredit everything you say. Let them try. Clara's voice hardened. I've already lost everything once. I won't lose again. Webb nodded slowly. Saddle up. We ride in 10 minutes. The night swallowed them as they left Cheyenne behind. Clara rode between Webb and another marshal named Collins, her body exhausted but her mind sharp. Every hoofbeat brought her closer to Tom. To answers, to either salvation or destruction. Tell me about Pike, Webb said as they rode. What kind of man are we dealing with? Dangerous, smart, loyal to Crow, but not stupid. Clara thought back to her brief encounters with the sheriff. He's been covering Crow's tracks for years. He won't hesitate to kill to protect himself. How many deputies? At least 4, maybe more, and he's got friends in town who owe him favors. Collins whistled low. 6 marshals against a corrupt sheriff with backup. Those aren't great odds. They'll have to be good enough. Webb's jaw set. We've got the law on our side. And surprise. They rode through the night, stopping only to rest the horses. By dawn, they'd covered 40 miles. By midday, the outskirts of Stillwater appeared on the horizon. We go in quiet, Webb instructed. No badges showing until we're in position. Collins, you take 2 men around back of the jail. I'll take the front with Miss Whitmore. And if Pike starts shooting, then we finish it." They split up at the edge of town. Clara followed Webb through back alleys, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. The jail was a squat building near the center of town, its windows dark, its door closed, no sign of activity. "Could be empty," Webb murmured. "Or could be a trap." They crept closer. Webb positioned himself beside the door, his pistol drawn. Clara pressed against the wall, barely breathing. Webb held up 3 fingers. 2. 1. He kicked the door open. The first shot came from inside, wild, desperate, splintering the doorframe inches from Webb's head. He dove left, returning fire. Clara dropped to her knees, scrambling for cover. "U.S. Marshals," Webb shouted. "Lay down your weapons." More shots, screaming, the crash of furniture being overturned. Then a voice Clara recognized. Pike. "You're making a mistake, Marshal. I'm the law in this town." "Not anymore, you're not." Webb advanced into the building. "Where's Thomas Brennan?" Silence. "Pike, where is he?" Clara heard scuffling. A grunt of pain. Then Colin's voice from somewhere deeper in the building. "Found him. He's alive." The relief nearly knocked Clara off her feet. She pushed past Webb, running toward Colin's voice. She found Tom in a cell at the back of the jail. His face was battered, one eye swollen shut, blood crusted on his lip. But he was breathing. He was alive. "Tom." She dropped to her knees beside the bars. "Tom, can you hear me?" His good eye opened, focused on her face, and despite everything, the pain, the exhaustion, the certain knowledge that he'd nearly died, he smiled. "You made it." "I made it." Tears streamed down her face. "I'm so sorry. I should have stayed. I should have—" "You did exactly what you were supposed to do." His hand reached through the bars, found hers. "Ruth's evidence. Safe. Morrison has everything. Crow and Shaw are being arrested as we speak." Tom's eyes closed. She did it. After all this time, Ruth finally got justice. "We both did." Clara squeezed his hand. "We're going home, Tom. We're taking you home." The cleanup took hours. Pike was arrested along with 3 of his deputies. The 4th had fled, but Webb sent men after him. By nightfall, Stillwater's corrupt sheriff was in chains awaiting transport to Cheyenne for trial. The town emerged slowly from its fear. Families who'd lost land came forward with their own stories. Witnesses who'd been too afraid to speak suddenly found their voices. Clara sat beside Tom in the doctor's office while his wounds were tended. Martha had been sent for, and the children were on their way. "I thought I lost you," Clara said quietly. "When I heard the gunshots. When I had to ride away." "I know." Tom winced as the doctor probed a particularly nasty bruise. "I thought the same thing. All I could think about was never seeing you again. Never seeing the children." "What did Pike do to you?" Tom's jaw tightened. "Tried to get me to talk. Wanted to know where you were, where the evidence was. I didn't tell him anything." "He beat you." "He tried." A ghost of a smile. "I've been beaten by worse." The doctor finished his work and stepped back. "Nothing broken, which is a miracle. You'll be sore for a few weeks, but you'll heal. Thank you, Doc." They were alone. Clara moved closer, taking Tom's battered face in her hands. "Don't ever do that again," she whispered. "Do what saved your life. Sacrifice yourself. I can't—" Her voice broke. "I can't lose someone else, Tom. I've lost too much already." He pulled her close, ignoring the pain in his ribs. "You're not going to lose me. I made you a promise. Remember, when this was over, we'd talk about forever. Is it over? Almost." He pressed his forehead against hers. "The trial's still coming. Crow and Shaw will fight with everything they have. And you're past. I know." Clara pulled back slightly. Morrison warned me. They'll try to use my conviction to discredit me, to make me look like a liar. Are you ready for that? No. She laughed, surprising herself. I'm terrified, but I'm done running Tom. Whatever happens in that courtroom, I'm going to face it. For Ruth, for you, for myself. Tom cupped her face in his hands. That's my girl. The children arrived just before sunset. Hattie was out of the wagon before it stopped moving, flying across the dusty street and launching herself at Clara with the force of a small cannonball. You came back. I knew you'd come back. I told everybody you would, but Samuel said you probably ran away again, and I said you wouldn't because you're our angel and angels don't run away, and... Hattie! Clara knelt down, gathering the girl in her arms. Breathe, sweetheart. I can't breathe. I'm too happy. The other children followed more slowly, Eli helping Rosie down, Samuel hanging back with his arms crossed, the twins pushing each other as always. Martha brought up the rear, her weathered face creased with worry. Is it true? Martha asked quietly. Pikes arrested Crow and Shaw, too. All of them. Clara released Hattie and stood. It's over, Martha. Ruth's evidence is going to bring them down. Martha's eyes filled with tears. She knew. That stubborn, beautiful woman. She knew someone would find the truth eventually. She believed. She always did. Martha wiped her eyes impatiently. Well, I suppose we'd better get everyone fed. Can't fight corruption on an empty stomach. The children swarmed Tom, their voices overlapping with questions and concerns. Clara watched him absorb their love, watched the tension drain from his battered face as his family surrounded him. This, she thought. This is what Ruth was protecting. This is what she died for. Eli approached Clara, while the others fussed over his father. Thank you, he said quietly, for bringing him back. I didn't do it alone. No, but you didn't give up. Eli's young old eyes met hers. Mama would have liked that. Clara's throat tightened. I hope so. She would have. Eli hesitated, then did something Clara didn't expect. He hugged her. Brief, fierce, full of emotions a 12-year-old didn't have words for. Welcome to the family, Miss Clara. He walked away before she could respond, leaving her standing in the street with tears streaming down her face. The trial began 3 weeks later. Clara sat in the Cheyenne courthouse, her hands folded in her lap, her heart hammering against her ribs. Tom sat beside her, his wounds healed, but the memory of them written in faint scars. Morrison had prepared them for what was coming. The defense attorneys would be brutal. They would attack Clara's credibility, her character, her very right to exist. They would use every weapon available to destroy her testimony. But Morrison had weapons of his own. The prosecution calls Clara Whitmore. Clara stood on legs that trembled. She walked to the witness stand, placed her hand on the Bible, and swore to tell the truth. She told it. She told them about finding Ruth's hidden compartment, about the journal, the forged deeds, the letters documenting years of corruption. She told them about Pike's pursuit, about Tom's sacrifice, about the desperate ride to Cheyenne. The prosecutor led her through every detail, building a picture of conspiracy and murder that left the jury pale and shaken. Then it was the defense's turn. Edmund Shaw's attorney rose from his chair. He was a slick man from Denver brought in specifically to destroy Clara's testimony. Miss Whitmore, his voice was oily, condescending. You were convicted of theft in Ohio, were you not? Yes. Served 4 years in prison? Yes. And you expect this jury to believe the testimony of a convicted criminal? Clara had prepared for this, had rehearsed it with Morrison until the words came without thought. I expect this jury to examine the evidence. Documents written in Ruth Brennan's own hand, deeds with forged signatures, letters between the defendants discussing their crimes. My testimony supports what the evidence already proves. But your testimony is tainted by your past. Your credibility. My credibility was stolen by men like your client. Clara's voice hardened. I was convicted because a wealthy family's son wanted me in his bed and I refused. Because they planted evidence to punish me for saying no. Because the system is designed to protect the powerful and destroy the powerless. She looked at the jury. I served 4 years for a crime I didn't commit. Ruth Brennan died trying to expose men who've been stealing land and destroying families for years. The only difference between us is that she's not here to defend herself. I am. The courtroom went silent. The defense attorney recovered, but Clara could see the damage was done. The jury was looking at her differently now, not as a criminal, but as a survivor. The trial lasted 2 weeks. Witness after witness came forward. Families who'd lost their land, officials who'd been bribed, even a former deputy who'd grown a conscience and decided to testify against Pike. Ruth's journal was read aloud, her final words echoing through the courtroom like a ghost demanding justice. On the 15th day, the jury retired to deliberate. Clara sat in the hallway with Tom, surrounded by the children Martha had insisted on bringing, despite the impropriety. Hattie sat on Clara's lap, half asleep. Rosie played with her rag doll on the floor. The boys clustered around their father, trying to look brave. "How long do you think they'll take?" Samuel asked. "Could be hours," Tom said. "Could be days." "What if they say not guilty?" James asked, his voice small. "What if the bad men get away?" Clara looked at the boy, at all of them, and felt a fierce protectiveness surge through her. "Then we fight again," she said. "We keep fighting until they listen. Until justice happens. Until your mama's death means something." "Clara," Tom's voice was soft. "Whatever happens in there, I know." She met his eyes. "But I'm tired of preparing for the worst, Tom. I want to believe something good can happen. I want to believe Ruth was right, that the truth matters, that courage matters, that people like us can win." "We already have." Tom took her hand. "Whatever the jury decides, we already have." The door opened. A clerk appeared, his face carefully neutral. "The jury's reached a verdict." Clara's heart stopped. They filed back into the courtroom. Tom, Clara, the children, Martha. The gallery was packed, word having spread that the verdict was coming. The jury foreman stood. His hands shook slightly as he unfolded the paper. "In the matter of the Territory versus Silas Crow on the charge of murder in the first degree, we find the defendant guilty." Clara's breath caught. "On the charge of land fraud, guilty. On the charge of conspiracy, guilty." The foreman continued through Shaw's charges. "Guilty, guilty, guilty." Then Pike. "Guilty on all counts." Clara's vision blurred. She felt Tom's arm around her, heard the children's voices asking what was happening, felt Martha's hand on her shoulder. "Justice," she whispered. "Ruth got justice." The courtroom erupted. Crow was shouting. Shaw was demanding an appeal. Pike sat in stunned silence. Marshals moved forward to take them into custody. And in the middle of the chaos, Clara turned to Tom and buried her face in his chest. "It's over," she said. "It's really over." "No." Tom's voice was thick with emotion. "It's just beginning." Morrison found them afterward, his face creased with the first smile Clara had seen him wear. "Congratulations," he said. "You just brought down the most corrupt conspiracy in territorial history." "Ruth brought them down," Clara corrected. "We just finished what she started." "Speaking of which." Morrison reached into his coat and pulled out a document. "During our investigation, we discovered some interesting connections between Judge Crow and certain legal cases in Ohio." Clara's blood went cold. "What kind of connections?" "It seems Crow had business partners in several eastern states. Partners who used the same techniques, forged evidence, bribed officials, false accusations to destroy people who got in their way." Morrison handed her the document. "I've filed a petition with the Ohio courts requesting a review of your conviction. Based on what we've uncovered, I believe you'll be fully exonerated within the year." Clara stared at the paper. The words blurred. Her hands shook. "You're saying my conviction was part of a larger pattern of corruption. The family that accused you connected to Crow's network. The evidence against you was almost certainly fabricated." 6 years. 6 years of shame, of running, of believing herself marked forever. And now, with a single document, the world was telling her it had all been a lie. Clara's knees gave out. Tom caught her, held her up, murmured words of comfort she couldn't quite hear through the roaring in her ears. "I'm free," she whispered. "I'm really free." "You always were." Tom's voice was fierce. "The world just took too long to see it." Hattie pushed through the crowd of adults and grabbed Clara's hand. "Does this mean you're staying forever now?" the girl asked. "For real and always?" Clara looked at this child, this fierce, loving, impossible child who'd found her bleeding in the dirt and decided she was worth saving. At Tom, whose faith in her had never wavered. At the other children, at Martha, at this strange, beautiful family that had welcomed her when the world had thrown her away. "Yes," she said, "for real and always." Hattie's whoop of joy could probably be heard in the next county. The news of Clara's exoneration arrived on a Tuesday morning 3 months after the trial. She was in the kitchen with Martha kneading bread dough when Tom walked through the door with a letter in his hand and tears streaming down his face. Clara's heart seized. "Tom, what is it? Is someone hurt?" He couldn't speak. Just handed her the letter. She read it twice before the words made sense. "Dear Miss Whitmore, the state of Ohio hereby acknowledges the wrongful conviction rendered against you in the matter of full exoneration. All charges dismissed. Formal apology from the court. Restoration of civil rights." The letter fell from her fingers. "It's official," Tom said hoarsely. "You're free, Clara. Really, truly free." Her knees buckled. Martha caught her on one side, Tom on the other, and together they lowered her into a chair. "I don't understand," Clara whispered. "How? The family that accused me, they're powerful. They have connections. They had connections to Crow." Tom crouched beside her, his hands warm on hers. Morrison traced the whole network. The same lawyers, the same judges, the same tactics. When Crow fell, he took them down with him. "But my father's land. Yours again." Tom's voice broke. "Every acre. The sale was declared fraudulent. It all reverts to you." Clara stared at him. At Martha. At the kitchen that had become her sanctuary, the house that had become her home. Her father's farm. She'd dreamed of it every night in prison. The rolling hills of Ohio. The creek where she'd learned to fish. Her mother's grave under the old oak tree. All of it stolen, sold, lost forever. Now it was hers again. "I have to go back," she said slowly. "I have to see it." Tom's face flickered with something like fear. "Clara, I have to know it's real." She gripped his hands. "I have to stand on that land and know that they didn't win. That 6 years of running and hiding and being called a thief, it wasn't for nothing. Then we'll go together." "No." Clara shook her head. "The children need you here. Harvest is coming. The ranch can't spare you for weeks of travel." "Clara, I'll come back." She cupped his face in her hands. "I promise you, Tom Brennan, I am coming back. But I need to do this. I need to close that chapter before I can fully start the next one." Tom searched her eyes for a long moment. Whatever he found there must have satisfied him because he nodded slowly. 1 month. That's all I can bear. If you're not back in 1 month, I'm coming after you." "Deal." Telling the children was harder than Clara expected. Hattie cried, actually sobbed great heaving wails that shook her whole body. "You said forever. You promised forever, and now you're leaving." "I'm not leaving forever." Clara gathered the girl in her arms. "I'm going to visit my father's grave, to see my old home one last time. Then I'm coming back." "But what if you don't? What if something bad happens? What if you forget about us?" Clara pulled back and looked into Hattie's tear-stained face. "Do you remember what you told me the day we met, that you had your mama's intuition?" Hattie sniffled. "Yeah. What does your intuition tell you about me?" The girl was quiet for a long moment, her brow furrowed in concentration. Then slowly her face cleared. "That you love us. That you're scared but you're gonna be brave anyway. And that—" She paused. "That you're coming home." "That's right." Clara kissed her forehead. "I'm coming home. Because you're my home now, Hattie. You and your brothers and your sister and your father. I spent 6 years looking for a place to belong. I found it here." Eli handled the news with his usual stoic maturity, but Clara saw the fear behind his eyes. "You're different from the others," he said quietly. "The women who've come through here before they always leave. Decide ranch life's too hard. Decide the children are too much trouble. I'm not leaving because it's too hard. I'm leaving because I have unfinished business." Clara met his gaze directly. "And when I come back, Eli Brennan, I'm going to marry your father. I'm going to become your mother. Not to replace Ruth, no one could ever replace her, but to love you and protect you and be here for the rest of your life." Does that sound like someone who's running away? Eli's composure cracked. Just for a moment, just enough for her to see the scared 12-year-old underneath the grown-up mask. "Promise? Promise." The twins took the news by trying to convince Clara to smuggle them along in her luggage. Samuel pretended not to care, but couldn't quite meet her eyes at dinner. And Rosie. Sweet, serious. Rosie pressed her rag doll into Clara's hands. "Her name's Lily. Mama made her for me when I was a baby." Rosie's voice was solemn. "She'll keep you safe until you come home." Clara's eyes burned. "Rosie, I can't take Lily. She's yours." "But she's magic, like Hattie's handkerchief. Mama put love in her so I'd never be alone." Rosie pressed the doll more firmly into Clara's hands. "You need her more than me right now. You can bring her back when you come home." Clara pulled the girl into her arms and held on tight. "I'll take good care of her, I promise." "I know." Rosie patted Clara's hair with the gentle certainty of a child who'd already lost one mother and refused to believe she was losing another. "Because you always keep your promises. Daddy says so." The morning Clara left, Martha pressed a package into her hands. Food for the journey, and some medicine just in case. The older woman's voice was gruff, but her eyes were suspiciously bright. "You come back to us, you hear? This family's had enough loss." "I hear. And you marry that man properly when you get back. He's been walking around like a lovesick calf since you arrived. It's embarrassing." Clara laughed despite herself. "Yes, ma'am." "Don't ma'am me. I'm Martha. And I expect you to call me that when you're Mrs. Brennan." Tom walked her to where the stagecoach waited at the edge of town. The children had said their goodbyes at the ranch, too many tears for a public farewell. 1 month, Tom said, his voice rough. 1 month. Write to me. Let me know you arrived safely. I will. And Clara? He pulled her close, his arms tight around her. Don't forget what's waiting for you here. She kissed him, long and deep and full of promise. Never, she whispered against his lips. Never in a million years. The journey back to Ohio felt like traveling through time. Clara watched the landscape change through the stagecoach window, mountains giving way to plains, giving way to rolling hills. Every mile brought her closer to the past she'd been running from. She reached her father's farm on a cool autumn morning. It looked smaller than she remembered. The house needed paint. The barn needed repairs. The fields lay fallow after years of neglect. But the creek still sang its familiar song, and her mother's grave still rested under the old oak tree. Clara knelt beside the headstone and let herself cry. I'm back, Mama, she whispered. I'm free. They cleared my name, said I never did what they accused me of. I know you always believed that, but now the world believes it too." She traced the letters carved into the stone. Margaret Whitmore, beloved wife and mother. I found a family mama, a man with kind eyes and a heart as big as the sky. 5 children who need a mother, a place where I belong. Clara's voice broke. I'm going to marry him. I'm going to raise those children. I'm going to build the life you always wanted for me. The wind rustled through the oak leaves, an answer maybe, or just the world breathing. I miss you, Clara said. I miss Papa. I miss the person I used to be before everything went wrong. But I'm not running anymore. I'm not hiding. I'm Clara Whitmore, and I survived. She stood wiping her eyes and looked out over the land that had shaped her childhood. Goodbye, Mama. Goodbye, Papa. Goodbye to the girl I was. Clara turned and walked away. Not running, just moving forward. She found a lawyer in town to handle selling the farm. The money would go toward Tom's ranch, their ranch now, a future built from the ashes of her past. The lawyer was professional, efficient, nothing like the corrupt officials who'd stolen everything from her. When he handed her the final papers, his eyes held something like admiration. I remember your case, Miss Whitmore. The whole town does, when word came through about the exoneration. He shook his head. A lot of folks felt ashamed, should have spoken up sooner, should have questioned what was happening. It's easy to stay quiet when speaking up costs something. That's the truth. He handed her a pen. For what it's worth, I'm glad you got justice. And I hope wherever you end up, they appreciate what they're getting. Clara signed the papers with a steady hand. They do, she said. They really do. The journey back to Montana felt shorter than the journey east. Maybe because Clara knew what was waiting for her. Maybe because every mile brought her closer to home. Or maybe because she was finally, truly free. Free of her past, free of her shame, free of the weight she'd been carrying for 6 years. The stagecoach crested the final hill, and Stillwater spread out below her. Clara's heart swelled. But when she stepped off the coach, the first face she saw wasn't Tom's. It was Eli's. And his expression made her blood run cold. Miss Clara. The boy was pale, breathing hard like he'd run all the way from the ranch. You have to come, right now. Eli, what's wrong? Is it your father? The children? It's Hattie, his voice cracked. She's sick, real sick. The doctor doesn't know what's wrong. She keeps asking for you, keeps saying the angel will come back and make it better. Clara didn't wait for more explanation. She grabbed her bag and ran. The ride to the ranch was the longest of Clara's life. Eli had borrowed a horse from the livery stable, and they pushed the animals hard, racing against time. Clara didn't have to lose. She'd just gotten everything she wanted. She couldn't lose it now. Couldn't lose Hattie, the child who'd saved her, who'd believed in her when no one else would. Tom met them in the yard, his face gray with exhaustion and fear. Clara, thank God. Where is she? Upstairs. The doctor's with her. He says... Tom's voice broke. He says if the fever doesn't break tonight. Clara pushed past him and ran into the house. Hattie lay in her small bed, her face flushed and sweaty, her breath coming in shallow gasps. The doctor stood beside her, his expression grim. Miss Whitmore. He stepped back. She's been asking for you. Clara dropped to her knees beside the bed. Hattie, sweetheart, I'm here. The girl's eyes fluttered open. You came back. I told you I would. I knew you would. A ghost of a smile. My intuition. Clara took Hattie's burning hand in hers. What happened? When did she get sick? 3 days ago. Tom's voice came from the doorway. Started with a cough. Then the fever. It got worse every day. I tried to wait for you. Hattie's voice was barely a whisper. But I got real tired, hard to stay awake. Then don't fight it. Clara smoothed the girl's tangled hair. Sleep, sweetheart. I'll be here when you wake up. Promise. Promise. Hattie's eyes closed. Her breathing steadied slightly. Clara looked at the doctor. What can we do? Keep her cool. Try to break the fever. Pray. His voice was heavy. I've seen cases like this before. Some children pull through, some don't. It depends on their strength, their will to live. She's strong. Clara's voice was fierce. She's the strongest person I know. The doctor gathered his bag. I'll be back in the morning. If there's any change before then. I know. Tom walked him to the door. Thank you. Clara didn't move from Hattie's bedside. The night stretched on endless and terrifying. She bathed the girl's forehead with cool water, spoke to her in soft tones, prayed to a God she wasn't sure she still believed in. Tom came and went, checking on the other children, trying to maintain some semblance of order in the chaos. Martha brought food. Clara couldn't eat coffee. She drank without tasting. You should rest, Martha said quietly. You've been traveling for days. I'm not leaving her. Clara. I said I'm not leaving. Martha nodded and withdrew. Sometime after midnight, Hattie's fever spiked. Her small body convulsed, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Clara held her, talked to her, begged her to hold on. You can't leave, Clara whispered fiercely. Do you hear me? Hattie Brennan? You found me. You saved me. You brought me home. You do not get to leave now. The girl's body stilled. Her breathing slowed. Clara's heart stopped. No, 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 no. But then Hattie's chest rose, fell, rose again. And when Clara pressed her hand to the girl's forehead, it was cooler than it had been all night. Tom, Clara's voice cracked. Tom, come here. He burst through the door, his face wild with fear. What is she? Her fever. I think it's breaking. Tom dropped beside her, touching his daughter's face, checking her pulse. His eyes filled with tears. She's cooler. She's actually cooler. She's going to make it. Clara was laughing and crying at the same time. She's going to be okay. By morning, Hattie was awake and demanding breakfast. I want pancakes, she announced, her voice still weak but unmistakably herself. With honey. And bacon. And can Clara make them? Martha's are good, but Clara's are better. Martha pretended to be offended. Tom laughed until he cried. The other children crowded into the room, all talking at once, filling the small space with noise and joy and life. Clara sat on the edge of Hattie's bed, Rosie's rag doll clutched in her hands. She'd held it through the whole night, this small piece of magic a dead woman had made for her daughter. You brought Lily back, Rosie said, noticing the doll. I told you she'd keep you safe. She did. Clara handed the doll to its rightful owner. She kept all of us safe. Hattie tugged on Clara's sleeve. You're staying now, right? For real, forever. No more going away. Clara looked at this child, this impossible, beautiful, fierce little girl who'd changed everything by taking a stranger's hand. For real, forever, she said. I'm never leaving you again. The wedding happened 3 weeks later. It was a small ceremony, just family, and a few close friends from town. Martha cried, which she denied vehemently afterward. The twins managed to behave for nearly 20 minutes before getting into a shoving match. Samuel looked grudgingly impressed by Clara's dress. Eli stood beside his father as best man, tall and proud. And Hattie recovered radiant, wearing a new hat, with a red ribbon served as flower girl. You look like a princess, she told Clara as they waited for the ceremony to begin. A real princess. Not a stuck-up one, though. A nice one. Thank you. I think. Mama would have liked this. Hattie's voice was matter-of-fact. She would have liked you being our new mama. I can feel it in my intuition. Clara knelt down eye to eye with her soon-to-be daughter. I'm not trying to replace her, Hattie. No one could ever replace your mother. I know. Hattie smiled. But she always said we'd have more people to love. She said love doesn't run out, it just gets bigger. She threw her arms around Clara's neck. And now we have you. That's not replacing, that's adding. Clara held the girl close, breathing in the scent of sunshine and wildflowers and something that smelled like hope. Ready. Tom appeared in the doorway, his dark eyes soft with emotion. Ready. Clara stood Hattie's hand in hers. Let's go get married. The ceremony was simple and beautiful. Clara spoke her vows with a clear voice and a steady heart. Tom's hands trembled as he slipped the ring on her finger, a simple gold band that had belonged to his grandmother. I pledge to love you, he said quietly, through every storm, every hardship, every joy. I pledge to stand beside you when the world turns against us. I pledge to be your partner, your protector, your home, for as long as we both shall live. Clara's eyes filled with tears. And I pledge to love you, Tom Brennan, to love your children as my own, to honor the memory of the woman who came before me, who believed in angels and second chances and the power of truth. I pledge to be worthy of the trust you've placed in me, to be the mother these children deserve, to be the wife you deserve. Her voice broke. To never stop running toward you, toward this family, toward the life we're building together. The minister pronounced them married. Tom kissed her and 5 children erupted in cheers. That night, after the celebration had ended and the children were in bed, Clara stood on the porch with her husband. Their porch, their ranch, their future. Happy? Tom asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. More than I knew was possible. Clara leaned into his embrace. For so long I thought I'd lost everything, that there was nothing left of the person I used to be. But you showed me that's not true. Ruth showed me that's not true. Ruth believed in you before you existed. Tom's voice was soft. She knew you were coming, knew you'd save us. I think we saved each other. They stood in comfortable silence, watching stars emerge overhead. What happens now? Clara asked. Now we live. Tom turned her to face him. We raise these 5, soon to be more, God willing. We work this land. We build something that lasts. And the past. My conviction, the years of running, behind you. Tom cupped her face in his hands. Clara, listen to me. I fell in love with the woman who walked out of that dust and into my life. The woman who risked everything to save a family that wasn't hers. Who rode through the night with evidence that could have gotten her killed. Who held my daughter's hand through a fever that almost took her. His voice broke. I don't care what the world said about you before. I care about who you are now. And who you are now is extraordinary. Clara kissed him, long and deep and full of gratitude. I love you, she whispered. I love you too. He pressed his forehead against hers. Welcome home, Mrs. Brennan. 6 months later, Clara stood before Ruth's grave. It was a bright spring morning. Wildflowers bloomed across the hillside and birds sang in the trees. Behind her, she could hear the children playing, their shouts and laughter carried on the warm breeze. I brought someone to meet you, Clara said, kneeling beside the headstone. Well, someone you already know, but I wanted to introduce her to you properly. She rested her hand on her swelling belly. I'm going to name her Ruth. Clara continued softly. Ruth Margaret Brennan, after you and after my mother. Tom doesn't know yet, I'm telling him tonight, but I wanted you to know first. She traced the letters carved into the stone. Ruth Ann Brennan, beloved wife and mother. Thank you, Clara whispered, for believing. For hiding that evidence, for trusting that someone would come, for raising children with hearts big enough to love a stranger. Her voice broke. Thank you for making room in your family for me. Footsteps approached. Clara looked up to find Hattie standing beside her, her expression solemn. Are you talking to Mama? Yes. Does she talk back? Not with words. Clara reached for Hattie's hand. But I like to think she hears me. Hattie considered this. I think she does too. I think she's real happy up there watching us. Watching you be our new mama. Do you really think so? I know so. Hattie's voice was certain. Because my intuition told me you were an angel the day I found you. And angels don't make mistakes. They just go where they're needed most. Clara pulled the girl into her arms, tears streaming down her face. I love you, Hattie. I love you too, Mama. They walked back to the house together, hand in hand, as they had that first day on the dusty road to Stillwater. Behind them, the wind rustled through the grass over Ruth's grave, a blessing maybe, or just the world breathing. Either way, Clara chose to believe it was something more. Tom met them at the porch, baby Rosie on his hip, the boys wrestling in the yard. He looked at Clara's tear-stained face and raised an eyebrow. Everything all right? Everything's perfect. Clara kissed him softly. I have something to tell you later. Something wonderful. Can't wait. She looked at her family, this impossible, beautiful, hard-won family, and felt her heart expand until she thought it might burst. She had come to Montana with nothing. A ruined reputation, a broken spirit, 23 cents in her pocket. Now she had everything. A husband who loved her. 5 children who called her mama. A 6th on the way. A home that would never turn her away. And the knowledge bone deep and unshakable that Ruth Brennan had been right all along. Angels didn't have wings. They didn't glow with heavenly light. They were just ordinary people who showed up when you needed them most, who took your hand when you were bleeding in the dirt, who believed in you when you'd forgotten how to believe in yourself. Clara Whitmore had spent 6 years running from everything. Now she'd finally learned what Ruth had known all along. The only thing worth running toward was home, and she'd found it.